What is going on, everybody? DragonFin96 bringing you some more Bloons Tower Defense Battle Salt. And today's lucky wheel of fate today. Oh boy, I wonder what it's gonna be. Well, hey, 10 medallions. That's not too bad. Alrighty, well, without further ado, let's get right into a little montage of sorts of battles that we will have today. Alrighty, so here's our first opponent. We have Math is Jansenus, and this is a cards match. Don't worry, this match does not last long. In fact, I'll just speed it up. So, it's basically the old tax and eco choke combination. I've mentioned it in a previous video in the past on how broken it is because you deny your opponent's eco for at least 3, and if you time it just right, 3 to 4 rounds of no income. And that can really hurt, especially in cards when the cards that you get is RNG. So if you have eco, if you don't get eco and you're trying to get down a card and your opponent sends something, yeah, it's not going to be a fun day. And what makes matters worse is that Kidnap is essentially knockout. So I guess what you could say is maybe limiting to like having 1 power card per deck or something like that. But, you know, instead of taking the loss like a champ, they rage quit. And honestly, I kind of don't blame them, but at the same time, like, I mean, if you say good luck as an emote, that usually tells me you're gonna go a tryhard strategy. And this will be a trend for a few of the matches where they'll just say, oh, good luck, and you know, they try to do their cheat strategy and it usually fails. I had one that actually worked, and don't worry, we'll get to that one. But with that one, we're going to move on to our next opponent. Alrighty, so our next opponent, right. Yeah, so this was not too long ago, like literally probably half an hour ago. This was Bonanza and Yellow Coliseum, or excuse me, Yellow Stadium. And when I saw this username, not only did I see it as, you know, inappropriate, but I immediately thought, oh, they're gonna go some tryhard shenanigans. Well, they had the same shenanigans as the one player that didn't really have camo detection, and I've been noticing this as a trend in Bonanza of people using genetically enhanced crops. Here's a little tip: don't run that power if someone has eco choke. Like, that shit will cripple you out of eco and make you waste all that cash if they time an eco choke when you gen crop. So they had eco choke on their side this time, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's eco choke against someone in Bonanza that does nothing. Like, eco choke in Bonanza doesn't really do anything if it's a map like this. Now, if it was like, say, Snowy Castle, okay, then it would be understandable, because 1, it's a short map, and 2, there's not many farming spots, so it makes more sense. So right here, I was sending eco to basically force an upgrade on the heli, as well as trying to overwhelm the heli. That was my goal, at least. And I got my goal to succeed. He got Razor, so that was nice. So he does his eco choke for the final time. And, I mean, I don't think they really knew how eco choke works or how to time it right. I think they were just trying to guess when I was going to collect bananas and try to eco choke me out then, so that way I would lose eco. I don't know. Didn't really bother me one bit, to be honest. Right here, once again, I was trying to struggle the heli, because when you have a heli on pursuit and you have grouped balloons, it hurts them big time. So right here, he pops down a glue gunner, and The glue gunner is going to clean up for the most part. So I set up for any sort of counters that he has. I set up 2 NGs, and I get them to cleansing foam, and I was just shy by a little bit. Right here, I'm going to tank a little bit of lives, but it's not too much of a big deal. And so, at this point, I sold that 1 NG, and I was able to get Balloon Trap. They got in their factory finally. I delayed that because of the fact that I forced the heli upgrades, which was nice. So even with the eco chokes, it balanced out with the forced upgrades. So right here, I do my classic thing, which is setting up a factory using the village. And usually, I would have had at least 2, maybe even 3. And if I was playing it really greedy and my opponent really didn't know how to rush, I would have had 4. That's usually what I've been doing. But anyways, I try to do the best that I can with trying to get up as much eco as possible. And I set up a village with camo detection on the off chance that they do send a rush. They do send a mini rush to try slurping up the balloons for the trap. Right here they do gen crop, and yeah, their balloon trap didn't really work. The sun god was a bait, and now they're laughing because look at me, I have gen crop, now I can set up BIAs and clap your ass. And well, sorry, but that's not how that's gonna go. So they set up all these BIAs, okay, and it was at this point I was like, okay, well, first of all, the heli's still on pursuit, and it's not really doing much in terms of pop power, especially against leads, because it only occasionally sends rockets. Right here, they're sending pinks, probably to flood the traps, or, you know, just to eco. Excuse me. So they continue to eco for a bit, basically giving me free money. Now, I noticed that they were starting to struggle with leads, so I took that into consideration, and I sent a BFB with regen camo leads, and then I started layering that with rainbows. And then they tried to, you know, break the camo detection, but yeah, that heli is having a hard time, and they rage quit. They rage quit because they lost. And this is why you don't greed in Bonanza. It's not that hard. Especially if your opponent has defense. Like if your opponent has defense, and here's a nice good little pro tip. If you run heli, do not put it on pursuit. Put it on patrol. And put patrol on a very small path, either generally speaking in the middle of the map or around a bend. Like, for example, right here in this little icy area right here. Yeah, you can put it right there, have it on patrol, and put it in between, like, in a short thing, and it'll do this, like, gyrating thing. And you're fine. Set up maybe a couple more helis other than just one Apache trying to do all that work, and you're fine. And for the love of God, please note that Super Monkey does not see camo unless it gets camo from a village, or if you use Signal Flare. I don't know how many people I fought that thought, oh, Super Monkey can see camo. No. It's the village that makes it see camo. But anyways, yeah, they weren't very happy. And with that, moving on to our next opponent. Alrighty, so here's our next opponent. This opponent really didn't have too much in terms of salt. Okay, it's just, you know, another username that was kind of rude. But anyways, they were going a pretty interesting strategy. They had boosts only, but Wiz Farm Super is actually a pretty good start. And then ice is actually a pretty good sacrifice as well. Good stall. So right here, I was basically forcing so much stuff that my opponent just kind of lost it. Well, I mean, they did lost. It's just, they were trying to greed big time. And once again, this is like the golden rule that you do in pretty much any game is you don't greed. If you don't greed, you don't lose. Well, you won't lose as bad. So right here, once again, I was forcing even more stuff. They got a Tornado Wizard, which, spoilers, will work against them. So once again, they were, even more trying to greed by setting down more farms. Keep in mind that those farms are just 0-0 or 1-1 farms. Like, okay, the ones on the top is 1-1 farms, the ones on the bottom is 0. And then I'm gonna assume that was a misclick because they were trying to upgrade their farm. Meanwhile, I have, you know, the 2 factories and the Rain of Fire for lead detection. And yeah, I get set up for camo, set up for a rush, and send said rush. And yeah, the Tornado Wizard kind of made it worse for the opponent. But anyways, moving on to the next opponent. Alrighty, so here's our next opponent. I gotten a pretty unfortunate start. I had to deal with glue, and my opponent was pretty good ranking opponent too. They were gold, silver, prestige, and I wasn't expecting too much cheese, but at the same time, I mean, once again, it's the old good luck emote that kind of, you know, catches you off guard. Like, at first I was going to have empowered Moabs, but then they were like, good luck, and I was like, okay, I'm sticking to Glue Storm. And yeah, they force a little bit of stuff, but not too much. Right here, I actually make a hard choke in terms of eco. Instead of setting up 2 0-0 farms, I had the first farm at 1-0, which put me behind in terms of farming because I wasn't getting enough eco like I normally would. And I mean, I learned my lesson. It's just yeah, anyways, I was forcing that ninja upgrade just so that way it'd be a little bit easier. So from here, you won't see it because the round number and stuff kind of blocks it, but I have 2 glue gunners right here. They're just 2 glue gunners, and I have them on my standard set, which is I put the first glue closest to the track on last, and then the second one on first, so it acts like a free glue hose. Saves a little bit of money, but it's worth it. And then I start setting up acid, so that way the balloons pop a little bit faster because I'm starting to lose a little too many lives for my taste. Okay, and so from here, I start setting up a little bit more factories. They send a lead balloon to see if I had lead detection. I don't know. It was kind of weird. I'm not sure exactly why they sent a lead, but they sent a lead. But anyways, from here, my opponent starts to send a rush, but yeah, the acid kind of takes over right here. I send some camos, and once again, my opponent doesn't realize Super Monkey can't see a camo, and then they just die. But yeah, that'll do it for this match. I'll move on to our next opponent. Alrighty, so our next opponent is Snipping, and they have a similar strategy as the last opponent. The only difference is that they had knockout, and once again, it was another one of those good luck kind of opponents. But this time, knockout actually does finish me off, and I actually was a little bit salty over this because even though I knew it was coming, because I figured there was going to be some cheese strategy because they used knockout the first time, so I was like, okay, well, I knew it was going to come. So, I might as well get ready. And my choke came in a little bit later in this match, but for now, I set up a cluster bomb because it's actually pretty effective for the most part. And here's a little advanced tip: if you get it on balloon impact, it'll pop black balloons and zebras. A little unknown fact that not many people know that balloon impact can do. It's the same for flash bomb, by the way, because that's what it bases it off of, is that it sends flash bombs rather than normal bombs, which is why it pops it. So right here, I set up a village so that way the bomb tower can get a little bit of a buff, so that way it can minimize loss. So right here, that's when they revealed that they had knockout. So I was like, okay, so I better get ready. And I had these 2 villages now, keep in mind that. And the second village was so that way I can, you know, set up eco. And I was just slightly ahead on the farms, mind you. Just slightly ahead. And I was starting to lose a lot of lives, a lot more than what I was wanting with balloon impact, because it was actually working against me. But here, I set up the farms. I was like holding the super monkey over like where the village would be, because I was anticipating my opponent to knock out one of the bomb towers, and that's when I would send down this super monkey, but that didn't happen. So I had my 6 factories going, and they kind of over defended. I mean, I don't know if they were like expecting me to send a rush, but yeah, they kind of like heavily over defended and like already setting up temples when it's not even Moab time. So it's like, okay. Keep in mind, this is also in Yellow Coliseum, or Yellow Stadium, by the way. So they knock out the village, and just as I was clicking Gluestorm, because I set down the Sun God, because I sold the other village, because I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just, you know, set up some BIAs, but I didn't realize that they knocked out the village, because I actually thought that they knocked out the bomb, so it was a double choke. But either way, kind of shitty to have knockout in Yellow Stadium Bonanza as a grinder, by the way. It's pretty sad, to be honest, in Yellow Stadium Bonanza. Like, go back to Moab Pit, okay? Thanks. Anyways, moving on to our last opponent of the day. Alrighty, so our next opponent is Cobra. So I was like, oh shit, here we go again. And looking at their powers, imagine that, quick shot. But when they said good luck, I was like, I was actually gonna have empowered Moabs. This was the match I was talking about. I was gonna have empowered Moabs, but then they were like, good luck, and I was like, okay, I'm sticking to Gluestorm. So right here, I was like, okay, it's not normal to start with Spike Factory. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just burn out whatever track power they have and overload this Spike Factory. And they had Lightning Bolt, which was interesting. So from what power set that they have, they really weren't expecting it to go late game. They were wanting it to end, bam, right at round 13. But like the setup that I had, it wouldn't have worked. Because 1, they didn't have knockout. 2, Sun God can pop anything, even if it's in quick shot mode. And 3, even if that didn't work, I still had Gluestorm to, you know, slow him down. So right here, I was trying to overload the Spike Factory at this point, and he just got in Spike Ball Factory, but it still wasn't enough because they were still getting on the other side. So they sold the Spike Factory and got a Super Monkey up. And just as the Spike Balls were starting to run out, they get a laser Super Monkey, and yeah, it's pretty much sad. But that puts them behind majorly. So from here, we're equal on farms, but I start to pick up right about here. So from here, I start to pick up and start to get a few extra farms than them. So here, once again, I was trying to overload the Super Monkey, And right here, I burned the last lightning bolt because they really didn't want to lose a life. That's what I've seemed to notice as another gimmick that a lot of Bonanza players use. I'm not sure if they knew that I was, like, you know, there, but, like, yeah. This is also where I learned that it's better to start with a 0-0 rather than a 1-0, so that way you can maximize your farm potential when it comes to mid-late game. So from here, I had 2 villages. I was ready for any sort of shenanigans. And I had my Sun God ready. So Quick Shot really couldn't do anything. He couldn't touch me. I sent my rush just to bait like Sun God or anything, and then they forfeit. They literally surrender. They surrender because there wasn't anything that they could do. They couldn't Quick Shot. They weren't designed to go for late game, no matter which way they slice it. They could micro with Spike Factor, but that can only get you so far. Even with the fact that I've crippled their ego because I forced not only all their track powers, but so many upgrades, so that costed them a lot of cash. So they fell behind on farms. I mean, look at my farms compared to their farms. Yeah, big difference. And I was getting ready for my next factory too. So yeah, I'm sorry, but if you say good luck and you come in with a cheese strategy, be prepared because I'll probably have a counter for it, because it's usually going to be some form of QKS, whether it's quick shot, whether it's knockout, whether it's crowded balloons. But the other thing that I've noticed besides gen crops is this, where they'll just use lightning bolts to try tank whatever damage that they have. I don't know, maybe it's because they think the opponent's going to have Salted Wounds. I don't know. Salted Wounds is actually quite garbage for Bonanza because you're better off farming. There's only like a few instances where Salted Wounds is actually useful in Bonanza, and that's if it's like a really short map. Like, for example, Snowy Castle, Zen Garden, Indoor Pools, Ink Blots especially, Ice Flow, those kind of maps where it's short, you can't really farm, and so you gotta find some way of eco, something like that. But anyways, that will do it for now. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll catch you all in the next one. Later.